Es ist immer Good News Sonntag auf meinem Reaction-Kanal. Also jeden Sonntag oder jeden zweiten, je nachdem wie schnell Good News halt Videos hochlädt, werden wir uns am Sonntag mit Good News auf meinem Reaction-Kanal befassen. Und ich würde einfach sagen, wir gehen da rein, wir schauen uns das an. So für den Mental Health. Für den Mental Health als Ausgleich zu dem Eike-Video von gerade eben, okay? Let's go.
A surgeon in Florida.
Übrigens, ich mache Untertitel an, damit auch Leute, die jetzt nicht so gut mit Deutsch sind, mitkommen.
Just saved a life in Angola. Not by flying there, not through video calls, but by operating himself from 11,000 kilometers away.
Habt ihr das mitbekommen? Das war crazy. Das war auch actually relativ groß in den Nachrichten.
And that's just one of our good news stories from today. From species back from the brink of extinction to a possible solution for plastic pollution, this video will definitely
nicht so gut in Deutsch sind, habe ich gesagt. Nicht so gut mit Deutsch. Oh Mann.
Put a smile on your face. Hey, I'm your host Regis, and this is Good News. And here are 10 good news stories that'll make you happy.
Let's go.
But real quick before we get into today's video, I want to take a minute to talk to you guys, not as Regis, the host of Good News, but as Regis, the guy. Those of you who have enjoyed this channel over the last 2 or 3 years, crazy that we've been going for that long, have known me as the only host for the most part, up until very recently when Freddie started making videos on this channel. You know, I've actually been working with Freddie and our other partner Lewis for close to 5.5 years now, both here on Good News and on our other channel, Megabuilds. It's been a pretty incredible experience, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. A lot of you have been asking questions in the comments about why we've added a second host, and I wanted to take a minute to just address some of those right here so you guys know what's happening and what's coming down the pipeline in the future. Long story short, for those of you who don't know, in addition to...
Man muss ja auch Rücksicht auf die Österreicher nehmen, wenn deren Deutsch nicht so gut ist. Ja, so ich chat.
Hosting this channel and Megabuilds, I also work a full-time job. And
Boah,
recently,
krass.
as both channels have continued to grow, it's become more and more difficult for me to do both at the same time. I only have so many hours to the day, and frankly, I'm getting a bit stretched thin. So I sat down with Lewis and Freddie at the beginning of the year and told them that towards the end of the year, I was going to need to choose one or the other. I would either leave my full-time job or work exclusively with these two channels. Unfortunately, from a financial perspective, it's not feasible to just purely full-time host Megabuilds and Good News right now. So what
Das ist schon wild. Also die machen schon gut Aufrufe. Wenn wir uns das mal kurz anschauen. Das ist... Ja, also das variiert natürlich so ein bisschen, aber die machen schon gut Klicks. Und der hat ja auch noch mal einen zweiten Kanal. Krass. Das ist wirklich krass, muss ich schon sagen.
Means is that come the end of this year, I'm gonna have to step away from both channels.
Oha.
Now, don't hear what I'm not saying. Good News and Megabuilds are still gonna keep going and creating the awesome content that you guys have loved for years now. It's just gonna be without me, unfortunately. The channels are being left in very capable hands. Freddie and Lewis have been involved from the very beginning, so while the face on the outside is changing, the entire operation and our entire team is pretty much still intact. They're still going to be able to bring you the same great content we've been doing, just with a different twist and flair from our new hosts. We'll be sharing a little bit more about this transition and what it's going to look like going forward in some later videos, but I wanted to take a little bit of time and address this with you guys up front, so that there weren't any outstanding questions.
Aw, das ist voll sad.
Now, with that said, as I said, there will be more coming down the pipeline, but for now, let's stop talking about this depressing stuff, and let's get into today's video. Our first story takes us to Chile, where a helicopter approaches a remote mountaintop. The location is Cape Froward in the country's far south. The team inside is searching for one of South America's most endangered animals, the 𝗪𝗚 deer.
Aber wie cool das aussieht.
These furry deer have lost 90% of their population due to hunting and habitat destruction,
Schade.
which means that only about 1,500 remain in the wild. But here's what makes this discovery so interesting. This area is so remote and untouched that no one even knew if 𝗪𝗚 deer even lived here in the first place. But as the helicopter reached the peak, something incredible happened. Standing right there was exactly what they were looking for. A completely unknown population that had been thriving in secret.
Wie cool, also das ist echt schön. Zu wissen, dass es so ein paar Gebiete auf der Welt gibt, die wir einfach in Ruhe gelassen haben, beziehungsweise wo es nichts zu holen gab und irgendeine Art von Naturnähe noch existiert.
It wasn't just one deer either. Conservationists from rewilding Chile discovered a thriving group of 𝗪𝗪𝗡 deer in this pristine wilderness that will soon become a national park.
Nice.
𝗪𝗪𝗡𝗨𝗡𝗨, a park ranger who joined the expedition, was amazed by what they found.
De llegar al lugar, ir en el helicóptero en la cumbre y ver un huemul en la cumbre.
The area is so remote that helicopters are the only way to reach it, which explains exactly why these deer have survived undisturbed. This discovery brings real hope for one of the continent's most threatened species, proving that there are still wild places where these deer can live safely.
Gott sei Dank. Voll geil.
While the deer are being found, others are getting new homes.
Yeah!
Mexico just made a decision that's sending waves across the entertainment industry, and it's all good news for marine mammals. Mexico's Congress has voted to approve a complete ban on using dolphins, sea lions, and orcas in captive entertainment.
Das ist ein huge Gewinn, Leute. Huge. Riesiges Weh an Mexiko an der Stelle. Das Einzige, was ich hoffe, ist, dass wenn sie die zumachen, diese Tiere dann auch gescheit irgendwo hinpacken, dass sie nicht so wie in Frankreich versauern. Huge.
The ban takes immediate effect, with all 350 dolphins currently held in captivity across Mexico relocated to ocean sanctuaries.
Oh ja, sie haben schon eine Relocation. Ja, Leute, huge!
And Mexico isn't alone in this global movement either. France banned orca and dolphin shows in 2021.
Ja, das ist schwierig. Das haben wir gesehen, dass das leider schwierig ist.
2026 deadline, forcing Marineland to close in January of this year.
Schaut mal, hier. Das ist das Problem. Der ist immer noch da drin übrigens.
Meanwhile, India considers whales and dolphins to be non-human persons, meaning that they have rights like humans and bans on their captivity entirely. And at least 19 other countries, including Brazil, Switzerland, and the UK, have implemented similar strict bans. This makes it nearly impossible to keep marine mammals in captivity. This
Großartig. Das ist wirklich huge.
global shift represents something remarkable. The world is finally recognizing that forcing highly intelligent, wide-ranging species to perform for entertainment is just wrong. These animals deserve better than a lifetime of tricks and shows, and Mexico's bold decision is inspiring many other nations to follow suit. We love covering conservation efforts here on Good News, and this time we have a story about a new baby bringing hope. A tiny pygmy hippo has just been born in Kansas, and this 6-kilogram calf represents something massive for conservation.
Aber wo? In einem Zoo? Oder actually wo es gut ist, dass es geboren wurde?
Meet the newest resident at Tanganyika Wildlife Park, calf born to hippo parents Pluto and Posey. With fewer than 3,000 pygmy hippos left in the wild,
Das ist voll süß. Schaut euch das an. Das ist so ein Cutie.
every single birth is critical for the species' survival.
Ey, hat mich voll gefreut, dass du da warst. Habt einen schönen Abend, Mirik.
These adorable creatures face serious threats in West Africa, from habitat destruction and hunting. Only 3 pygmy hippo births were recorded in the entire United States last year, and that makes this Kansas arrival incredibly significant for breeding programs working to save the species. This little guy is already showing his personality, play fighting with branches and sprinting laps around the barn. The calf is thriving.
Ich muss mir das kurz nochmal angucken. Habt ihr das gesehen?
Play fighting with branches and sprinting laps around the barn.
Nicht die kleinen Füßchen, nicht die Füßchen. Oh mein Gott.
Personality. Play fighting with branches and sprinting laps around the barn.
Schaut!
The calf is thriving, and his parents are experienced. This is their 5th baby since 2014. Sticking with conservation efforts, here's how scientists are bringing back entire underwater ecosystems. Kelp forests are some of the most productive ecosystems on the planet. These underwater forests are made up of giant seaweed that provides food and shelter for thousands of marine species. But they're disappearing fast. In Australia's Port Phillip Bay, these underwater giants have declined by up to 98% over the last 40 years. The culprit?
Das sind einfach fast gone. Achso, ja, mit Seeigeln. Ja. Das ist ein actually Riesenproblem, also nicht nur in Australien, aber in Japan zum Beispiel ganz, ganz krass, weil sie dort die natürlichen Feinde ausgerottet haben von den Seeigeln, also zum Beispiel Otter und so. Die haben die komplett ausgerottet im Großen und Ganzen und jetzt übernehmen Seeigel einfach den gesamten Meeresboden. Das ist wirklich krass.
That have multiplied out of control, creating underwater deserts where lush kelp forests once thrived. These spiky creatures eat the kelp plants, destroying entire underwater forests. But researchers at RMIT have a solution that's as simple as it is brilliant. By strategically removing sea urchins in targeted areas, they can bring these forests back to life.
Ja, das ist halt ein Symptom einfach nur, was man versucht zu beseitigen. Also man hat halt die gesamte Nahrungskette zerstört und jetzt haben wir halt das Problem mit der Überpopulation von den Seeigeln und jetzt versucht man halt irgendwie das Symptom zu bekämpfen. Das ist halt schwierig. Jo, Zane, habt einen schönen Abend.
And here's the surprising part. It makes economic sense, too. A $50 million investment in sea urchin removal could generate $92 million in returns through boosted fishing, carbon storage, and job creation in commercial diving. The study shows that restoring kelp like 𝗪𝗕𝗨𝗡𝗚 radiata doesn't just save marine ecosystems, it creates a win-win for both nature and the economy. Over in Germany, scientists have discovered fungi that can actually eat plastic as their only food source. And the best part? They do this naturally. The discovery comes from Lake Stecklin in northeastern Germany, where researchers tested 18 different fungal strains. 4 stood out as the best plastic eaters: Fusarium, Penicillium, Botrytinia, and Trichoderma. So how does this work? The fungi release enzymes that break plastic down into smaller pieces that they can digest. But here's where it gets really interesting. The fungi actually change the shape of their cell walls to better attach to the plastic. It's like they're adapting their bodies to grab onto their plastic meal. Polyurethane, that's the plastic used in construction foam and sports equipment, turned out to be their favorite because it's the easiest for them to break.
Aha, also Beginn auf The Last of Us Pilzen. Ja.
In tests, these fungi consumed over 90% of available oxygen in less than 14 days while breaking down the plastic. The graphs show how much oxygen the fungi use up and how much carbon dioxide they produce, which tells us how actively they're digesting the plastic. The more oxygen consumed and the more CO2 produced, the harder the fungi are working to break down their plastic meal. Wow.
Bin gespannt, ob die Mikroplastik dadurch produzieren oder ob die restlos von den Enzymen abgebaut werden, die Plastikstückchen.
These fungi aren't going to solve our plastic crisis overnight. They're giving us new tools in the fight against pollution. Of course, we can't just dump these fungi into the ocean and expect them to clean up all of our plastic. They need controlled laboratory conditions to work effectively. But this research opens up new possibilities for targeted plastic cleanup in the future. Now, here's a story about 2 siblings who turned their worst moment into something incredible. Meet Cedar and Posey Connell. When Cedar was diagnosed with cancer, his sister Posey decided.
Da würde die Eike dann sagen, die produzieren ja noch mehr CO2 und ihr seid wahnsinnig. Ja, das klingt nach der Eike.
To turn their fight into something bigger. She wanted to help other families going through the same battle, fighting cancer. Cedar was just 15 when doctors diagnosed him with acute lymphoblastic leukemia in March 2022, a blood cancer that suddenly stopped his active life. But instead of giving up, these Boston siblings turned their struggle into hope for others. They launched Team Connells for a Cure with a goal of $35,000. The program works through the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's Student Visionaries Initiative. And in just 7 weeks, they raised an astonishing $620,438, nearly 8 times their target, earning them LLS's 2025 National Student Visionaries title. Their motivation was deeply personal. Posey wanted to give back to the organization that saved her brother's life, while Cedar, now 18 and cancer-free, hopes their work will create safer treatments for future patients.
Das ist voll geil. Das ist richtig, richtig cool. Glückwunsch an die beiden.
They weren't alone. Over 2,000 students nationwide raised a record-breaking $48 million through LLS's Philanthropic Leadership Development Initiative. Their story shows how young people can make a real difference when they put their minds to it. And here's another story about fighting cancer, but this time, distance wasn't gonna stop the cure. Fernando da Silva from Angola was facing prostate cancer that needed immediate surgery. But here's what made this story extraordinary. The surgeon who saved his life wasn't even on the same continent. Dr. 𝗪𝗚𝗚𝗕𝗨𝗚 performed the entire procedure from Orlando, Florida, over 11,000 kilometers away, using cutting-edge robotic technology.
Habt ihr das mitbekommen? Da wurde drüber berichtet. Das ist wirklich, wirklich crazy.
This is a robotic console. It's attached to a robot, and it's attached to a robot that does surgery in patients in operating rooms all over the world.
Fernando became the first patient in an FDA-approved trial testing remote robotic surgery across continents. Dr. Patel controlled every movement of the surgical robot through advanced fiber optic networks spanning 2 continents. The precision was remarkable.
Das ging aber auch nur, weil die eben kein deutsches Internet hatten.
Enhanced visuals and nimble controls allowed for less.
Hast du mitbekommen, dass Bienengift gegen Brustkrebs hilft? Beziehungsweise, ich habe mitbekommen, dass das Bienengift spezifisch Krebszellen angreift. Das habe ich mitbekommen, ja.
Invasive surgery with faster recovery. But the real breakthrough isn't just the technology. It's what this opens up for global healthcare. Rural communities lacking specialist surgeons could suddenly have access to world-class expertise.
Das ist urgeil,
Emergency
oder?
situations could be handled remotely, potentially even from ambulances. As Dr. Patel puts it, this represents a huge leap forward for healthcare access worldwide. But real quick before we continue, if you're enjoying these stories,
Ich muss aber dazu sagen, wie ist denn das dann mit der Krankenkasse? Also muss er dann aus Angola bezahlen oder die von Florida?
subscribe for more good news like this. We'd really appreciate it. And the good news from Africa just keeps on coming. And this breakthrough could save thousands of newborn lives. Malaria kills around 597,000 people annually, mostly children under the age of 5 in Africa. For the first time ever, newborn babies now have their own specialized malaria treatment. Switzerland's drug regulator has just approved the world's first anti-malarial drug designed specifically for infants under 2 months old.
Boah, das
and
ist
it's
cool.
heading straight to the countries that need it the most.
Oh, das ist huge.
For decades, doctors have been forced to give newborns adult-sized doses or risky half measures because no proper treatment existed for the smallest patients. This new treatment, called Coartem Baby, changes everything. Clinical trials show it's perfectly safe and effective for newborns in their first 2 months of life. The youngest babies face the highest risk, and they can't receive vaccines until they're 5 months old. 8 African countries are fast-tracking approval, including Kenya, Nigeria, and Uganda. After decades of using risky adult doses, newborns finally have their own safe and effective treatment. From protecting individual lives to transforming entire communities. In the small Finnish town
Ja, das ist mit der Sandbatterie. Da hatte Breaking Lab darüber ein Video gemacht. Habt ihr das mitbekommen?
of Pornainen, something revolutionary just started operating. The world's largest sand battery has started operating, and it's about to change how an entire community heats their homes. A 15-meter wide tower filled with nothing but sand, and it can store enough energy to heat around 260 homes for an entire month. And it all started with 2 young Finnish engineers asking a simple question. How do you solve energy storage when you want the cleanest power possible? Tommy Ironen and Markku Jalonen from Polar Night Energy discovered that grains of sand are surprisingly good at storing energy.
Ich glaube, da war die Geschichte, dass die halt am Sandstrand waren und einem von ihnen kam die Idee, dass wenn ja der Sand im Sommer so heiß ist, dass man kaum drauf laufen kann, dass man daraus sicherlich auch einen Wärmespeicher machen könnte.
When there's excess solar and wind electricity, it heats up the sand to around 500 degrees Celsius. The sand holds this heat for days, even months. When people need heating, hot air gets discharged to warm water in the community heating network. The battery stores 100 megawatt hours of thermal energy from solar and wind sources, helping residents eliminate oil from their heating network and cut emissions by nearly 70%. And speaking of simple solutions making a huge impact, solar power just made history in
Funktioniert das auch mit Wüstensand? Ja, safe, wenn du so eine Anlage baust? Warum denn nicht? Also.
Europe. For the first time ever, solar power has become Europe's biggest
Gute Nacht, Frostmond.
source of electricity. Solar panels across the EU just generated more power than nuclear plants, wind farms, or any other source.
Ja, aber oft mit den Kosten, dass die Meeresströmung zusammengebrochen ist, Leute, in Panama, ja? Immer diese bösen Windräder, grrr.
They powered over 1/5 of the entire continent. Solar now accounts for 22.1% of all electricity, up from 19% the previous year. And it wasn't just a few countries leading the charge. At least 13 EU nations, including Germany, Spain, and the Netherlands, all broke their previous solar records. According to energy analyst Chris Roslow, solar power is delivering exactly when Europe needs it most.
Ich liebe es, dass das so in die Good News packt. Hat nicht irgendeine Politikerin in Deutschland letzte Woche gemeint, dass wir ich weiß nicht mehr die genaue Zahl, aber es war eine ridiculous Zahl, auf jeden Fall dreistellig, neue Kohlekraftwerke brauchen, um den Energiebedarf der Deutschen zu decken? War nicht so etwas in der Art?
During summer heat waves when electricity demand reaches its peak. But here's the really exciting part. While solar was breaking records, coal hit an all-time low. Coal now makes up just 6.1% of Europe's electricity, down from 8.8% last year. Even Germany and Poland, traditionally heavy coal users, saw their coal dependence drop to record lows. Spain is almost completely coal-free, generating just 0.6% of its power from coal. Okay,
Crazy.
That's it for today's video. Do you think long-distance surgeries are going to become a thing now? And which of our good news stories from today are you the most happy about?
Ey, das war echt eine coole Folge. Also letzte Woche waren so ein paar Sachen dabei, wo ich so war, ja, okay. Aber to be honest, dieses Mal waren mostly wirklich Good News dabei, auf die man sich auch einfach einlassen kann. Ja. Wie hat's euch gefallen? Ich hoffe, ihr habt auch ein bisschen Seelenheilung erhalten durch das Good News Video.